Okay, good morning everybody. Thanks for coming. As Kes asked, I did check my demos. They worked 5 minutes ago, so I hope they still work today. Now I'm on the projector. So welcome to my session on automating daily tasks or common tasks in Microsoft System Center Config Manager. I won't focus completely on Config Manager. I will also take a bit of a detour via Orchestrator and a tiny bit of Service Manager. I'm not a Service Manager guy. There are lots of other people who know a lot more about Service Manager than I do. I just use it for that demo. So in case you don't know me already, that's me. David O'Brien, 28 years old, from Germany, Cologne, with my beautiful wife, who's currently upstairs in the pool. I work as an IT consultant at Sepago, which you probably know from Sepago Profile and Citrix Profile Management nowadays. That's my blog. So all the scripts I'm showing you today all are on that blog. So every script I write gets onto that blog. Or if it doesn't, if you don't find it there, tell me, I put it up. My Twitter account, what I usually do is System Center, mostly Config Manager and Orchestrator, and at Sepago's combined with Zen app deployment, which I showed you yesterday. Yeah, and some certifications. Okay, just a quick walkthrough of System Center, because we haven't heard too much of System Center here at E2E. Just to make clear, there are no products inside of System Center. The whole product is nowadays called System Center 2012. So there are components inside of System Center, and these are, I counted 9. So if anyone comes up to you and says, I'm an expert in System Center, don't trust him. Nobody knows all those 9 components on an expert level. Well, I haven't met one. Just a quick walkthrough. VMM, we've heard about that yesterday. Management of virtual machines, fabric management. Aidan could talk about that for days, I think. App controller, yesterday also Thomas and Michael Rüffli showed you that. Service Manager, we're going to see that in a few minutes a bit. Orchestrator, the whole automation glue of System Center. SCCM, Operations Manager, the whole monitoring part of System Center. Updates Publisher, I'm not too deep into Updates Publisher, I don't know if anyone is. You can update third-party products besides those from Microsoft via Updates Publisher. But in my opinion, if you want to update Adobe, just repackage it. Endpoint protection, nowadays inside of Config Manager, well, inside the console of Config Manager, the antivirus solution of Microsoft. And Config Manager, the only product, component inside of System Center which doesn't stick to the naming convention. It's not called SCCM. I just did a quick research on SCCM, and I can try to put it on screen. That's the International SCCM organization, Society of Critical Care Medicine. And even funnier, if you do it in Germany. So it's a Seniors Computer Club Munich, SCCM. So it's Config Manager or CM12.
But it's always called SCCM, right?
No, Config Manager. SCCM is Ops Manager.
SCCM with a U.
Sorry. And SCDPM, that's Data Protection Manager, the whole backup solution. Is anyone in here using more than 3 components on that list? 2. 1. Which one?
Enterprise, the antivirus.
Endpoint protection. Okay. SCCM and Config Manager are the most common components nowadays around. So I would have expected some Service Manager guys, but no, obviously not. So how does automation in Config Manager work? Until SP1, we didn't have any PowerShell support by Microsoft for Config Manager. There was no PowerShell module around. So at the time when SCCM and Service Manager and Exchange for years had already PowerShell, we with Config Manager had to use WMI or COM objects. Since SP1 we finally have PowerShell commandlets, and that's around about, no, exactly 471 PowerShell commandlets since SP1. Before that we only worked with WMI in VBS or C# scripts, or you did PowerShell with WMI, but there were no native PowerShell modules around. The bad thing about that PowerShell module is it's 32-bit only, because it relies on the admin console of Config Manager, which is 32-bit. I'm not an AppV guy, but I talked to a colleague of mine, and he complained about the AppV PowerShell commandlets being only 64-bit. So if you have a script which does things in Config Manager and in AppV at the same time, you have to always switch between bitness. So I don't know why Microsoft doesn't just do one bitness or both. Or maybe I don't just understand because I'm not a developer. Since the CU1, which just got released, I think, a month ago, we actually have commandlets that you can do something with. Before the CU1, there were mostly the get type, get CM device, get CM site, just get, which was quite nice for querying statuses of devices or your site, for example, to react with Orchestrator on some changes in your site, or just to check if a device is already existing. There were a few new add or set commandlets around, but the most commonly used commandlet, which was CM device information, a new CM device information to import a new device into your Config Manager database, had a bug, so it couldn't be used for, I think, half a year. Which is one reason why my script, which actually does that, was quite commonly used in lots of projects around. Since CU1, we've got 40 new ones, so add new set commandlets. The downside of those commandlets, those 511 commandlets, is they have no error handling whatsoever. So if you go and Well, they have error handling for their own syntax, but they don't check the parameters you give that commandlet. I will show you that in a moment. And WMI isn't fast, but those commandlets are even slower than WMI. I can show you that with a measure commandlet. So that's what I'm going to do now. Where's my mouse? First demo, fingers crossed.
So PowerShell commandlet's slower than WMI?
Yeah.
It's all random, no?
He must have read.
I'm sure he follows you on Twitter.
No, he doesn't. At least I don't know. Yeah, resolution is a bit off. That's stupid. So that's the commandlet I use most often if I do operating system deployment to check if that device is already inside my database. The problem is, if it wasn't, I wouldn't get any feedback that it couldn't find it. It just would be a $0. I can show you that one. So get CM site code help. I don't have a site with a site code help, which is okay. But the thing is, a site code is never ever with 4 digits. So it's only 3-digit site code. You can't have a site with 4 digits. So I would have expected Microsoft to check if the data, the value I put into the parameters, if they're even consisting with that I want to check. At least that's what I do when I write scripts. And just to my environment isn't that big, but just a bit of that large. Just a bit of comparison. So that one was the commandlet. That one's filter. No, that one. That and that one. So the commandlet ran 0.4 seconds, roundabout, finding one device in my database. Then I executed that WMI get WMI object command with where is it? And piped that onto a where object. That one ran 0.14 seconds. And the getWMI object with a filter, a query, ran round about the same. So we have a factor of round about 3 that those native commandlets of Microsoft are slower than the getWMI commandlet, which isn't too bad in a small environment like I have. I only have, I think, 16 devices in my database. But I've been to a customer which isn't considered that large from a Microsoft perspective. That was just 30,000 devices. But if I ran get CM device on that database, I could take a coffee break or a water break. I don't drink any coffee. So if you use those commandlets, think before if you want to use them or the get WMI or any other commandlets by Microsoft. Questions on that? No. Okay. So we have PowerShell commandlets for config manager. We can still write our own scripts with WMI in PowerShell, or if you like, you can still use C# or VBS and use com objects, whatever you want. But how can we automate this automation? And that's where Orchestrator comes on stage. And Orchestrator is really a small component, the smallest component in System Center. The download is just about 70 megabytes, I think. It's next, finish, install, create a small database, and then you have automation for your whole System Center environment. And beside, so it's not only automation for System Center, you can automate tasks in your Active Directory, Exchange, in anything you can think about. So everything that can be automated through Orchestrator. I will show you how in a minute. It's a bit like the REST Automation Manager. So they basically do the same. Orchestrator, if you want to create simple workflows, you can do that via just drag and drop activities around, create links between them, pass variables or parameters from one activity to the other. And more complex tasks, if there aren't already activities around, script them. And if you did that, create activities out of those scripts to use them in other runbooks, for example. There are already integration packs for System Center available made by Microsoft. So all System Center components have an integration pack which brings you activities for that component. They're not really complete. There are a lot of activities missing from that integration packs, which you still have to script. For example, add a new device into your config manager database. That one's missing. You can't do that via an Orchestrator activity. But thanks community, there are a lot of activities and integration packs uploaded to Codeplex. And you can also find some of my runbooks on Codeplex. And which is quite fun, and I will demo that, try to demo that later on. There's also a Twitter and Yammer integration pack. I think some of the Scandinavian or Nordic guys use that quite often in their demos, so I thought, why not give it a try? Next demo. Let's see if I can decrease the resolution a bit. I think that one, it's okay. Yeah. Okay, that's Orchestrator. Just like Automation Manager by RES. A simple GUI, and that's where you create your runbooks. Runbooks are basically your technical workflows that you want to automate. And these are activities inside your runbook. And on the far right, you have your integration packs with activities inside of them. So, for example, the config manager integration pack here has given you 2, 4, 6, 7, around about a dozen activities. But I bet you want to do a bit more than just add a collection rule, for example. As I said, you won't find add new device into my database activity here, which is really a shame, because that's what you want to do, to deploy an OS onto your device. Or, for example, there's no create a new site system inside my site. And that's what I'm going to show you in a minute, how to create a new distribution point. Because Microsoft didn't focus too much on automation in Config Manager 2007, before that, and now in 2012. That's why just now the PowerShell commandlets came out. So I've been to a customer, done a project there, which had 150 remote sites. Each of that site was supposed to get a distribution point. So if you want to deploy a distribution point into that site, into that location, you have to do it manually in the Config Manager GUI. That's around about 15 mouse clicks per distribution point. And the thing is, each click does deploy different roles onto that distribution point. So you must use automation. That customer told me, if you can't automate that, Config Manager is out. And he was quite right by saying that. Because if you do it manually, you will do errors. You will create errors. It will, yeah, it won't be good. Because everybody does it differently. Even I do it differently when I do it now and tomorrow. So that's why I created that script, and after that, that runbook. So as I said, there's no create new distribution point activity in here. So I had to write a PowerShell script for that. And you can integrate any PowerShell script you have into Orchestrator by just executing an activity that's called run.net script and tell it that it's a PowerShell script. I won't go into detail, but that's how you had to script a new distribution point before SP1. And that's all the parameters you have to set for a new distribution point. Since SP1, we have got a PowerShell commandlet by Microsoft, which had a bug. So we couldn't use that in SP1. They fixed that in CU1, but still I've got lots of downloads on that script on my blog. I don't know why the commandlet now from CU1 works, and it works good, and it's easy. I can show you. So you've seen that script, and mouse, just get the resolution down. So if you want to create a new distribution point, it's only 2 lines now. So a big thank you to Microsoft for giving us that commandlet. The first line is just create a new site system inside my database and then make that a new distribution point. So we've got our runbook, and what now? We could run it from here, but it won't work because we still have to give it some parameters. In this case, what's the name of the new distribution point? And that's some config manager specific. We have to put a distribution point into a distribution point group. So if you're a config manager admin, in my opinion, you don't have to have access or real hands-on access to the console, because all your tasks can be automated and given access to you via Orchestrator. And Orchestrator has a web console, which is unfortunately based on Silverlight, just like Service Manager. That's why you probably see some display errors in a few seconds. I think it's because of RDP and Silverlight and some stupid things. So that's on the left here. I can see all my runbooks which I have access to. So I can still give permissions onto certain runbooks. Obviously, I have permission to all of them. So I'm an admin. I want to deploy a new distribution point. I've already deployed the OS and now know the FQDN of that server. I know which distribution point group name I have to choose and fire it off. So the runbook started, which we can see up here, and executed successfully. If we go back into our config manager console now and just have a look, we can see the new distribution point has been created, and it also has got the properties I wanted to have. So it reacts on Pixie requests, it will respond to that, and it's been put in. Okay. It's not inside the group, and that's actually, I think, a bug. Because if I do, before I add it into that distribution point group, and I wait for around about half a minute, then it works. But I don't want to put a sleep something inside my scripts. I hate sleep. And I actually hate sleep. Yeah.
I have too little of it.
Yeah. Okay. Questions on Orchestrator? So if you have questions later on, I'm still here until I think 4 or 5 o'clock. My plane leaves at 8. So just come up to me and ask me anything you want regarding System Center. So we've talked about admins. We've talked about giving admins access to certain tasks. But nowadays we all talk about self-service. We want to give users access to the opportunity, the possibility to do admin tasks in our environment without actually giving them permission to do something in our environment. Was that clear? I think so, yeah. Self-service. And that's where a service manager has to be used. As I said, I'm not a service manager guy. I will just run a bit through that. Service manager does all that ITIL stuff. I'm not an ITIL guy as well. A colleague of mine said ITIL stands for I trick, I lie. So it's the whole change, release, incident, problem management thing, whatever you have in your organization. So where Orchestrator automated your technical workflows, Service Manager automates your whole organizational workflow and uses Orchestrator for the technical part. So it's possible to integrate Orchestrator runbooks into your Service Manager service requests. Service requests are basically items in your web shop that users can use. As I said, then you're able to include your technical workflows into organizational workflows. There are also review activities. If user A wants to access or wants to have software B installed, then his superior has to review that, his request. That's it. His request, review that, approve it, and only after approval that software is going to be installed. Or in my demo, I will show you a user wants a new VM, a Windows 8 VM, because, I don't know, he just wants a new Windows 8 VM. And after installation of that VM, someone has to go check the installation, say, all okay, all good, there you are. And basically, what I'm showing you is how this config manager task, so this config manager operating system deployment task, is put into a service request, a service manager service request for a user which actually has no permission in either Orchestrator or config manager, or as I will show you on my laptop, because that's my Hyper-V host, and deploy himself a new Windows 8 VM. And that's all done via web shop, as it's normal today. It's based on SharePoint 2010, and as I said, on Silverlight. And that's what I'm going to show you now. So I think I have 8 minutes left. That should be enough. Where's my mouse? So that's my Service Manager portal. And basically that's a service offering. It's just a group of service requests. And on that page, I, as a user, am able to see all the service requests I have permission to use. And I'm going to, is that readable in the back? Yeah?
More or less.
More or less?
You never put it in green.
No. Okay, I want to create a new VM and deploy an OS with config manager. Yeah, go to request. So what's the new computer's name? It's E2EVC 2013 in Copenhagen. I could have done that one a bit differently because I believe no user knows what a collection is and in which collection or on which collection his deployment, his correct deployment is. But it's deploy Windows 8 and that's basically another big problem that Service Manager and Config Manager, or the link between those components, have. All components have connectors, or you can create a connector between Service Manager and Orchestrator and Config Manager. What the Config Manager connector basically does is just getting all the asset management from Config Manager into the Service Manager CMDB to build up the CMDB, because nowadays everything is about the CMDB. But what it doesn't do is getting any information out of your site. So all the collections had to be scripted by me, create a new Service Manager class, put the information into there, and create a new, I think it's an enumeration list, I don't know. As I said, I'm not a Service Manager guy. It took me quite a while to get behind that one. So next, submit, and wait. So the user can now track the process by seeing at which step his request is at the moment. So it's new, and when we go inside the Service Manager console and have a look at the open service requests, we can see that that one has arrived and it's already in progress. So in progress for that request means that this runbook should be executed in a minute. No, that one. And it's already running. So I'll just talk a bit about that runbook first. Almost every runbook starts with a initialize data activity. So you have to give the runbook some parameters from which it can start executing. In this case, it's just the request ID from the service request. With that ID, I go ahead and get all my information out of that service request. So I get the computer name for that new VM and know into which collection I have to put that and use it over here. It's here where I get do my first step into the config manager database and get the collection name, create a new Hyper-V guest on my notebook. I don't actually, unfortunately, have a fancy Hyper-V environment somewhere in the cloud, so it has to be my notebook. Add that new Hyper-V guest into my config manager database, start it up, and let it pick the Pixie deployment out of my config manager database. And at the end, I hope I'm going to see a new tweet. Saying that somewhere I didn't read anything, so I'm doing that afterwards. But here's our new guest. So that one has already been created, and it's already running for a minute. Picked up the deployment, and it's actually already installing Windows 8. So, and here's our tweet.
In terms of installing Windows 8, what's that actually? Is that a VM that you already have configured, or is
No.
it deployment services into a VM that you just instantiated?
Yeah, I used the Runbook to create a new Hyper-V guest on my notebook. The Runbook started or booted that VM up, and inside my config manager database I have an OSD deployment on that collection into which I put that VM. So from the beginning to the end, completely automated. Don't think that I will ever use that in a productive environment or at a customer, but it's just cool. There will be another tweet as soon as installation is completed.
It doesn't have to be tweets, does it? It could be a link.
Yeah.
Someone's
Yeah.
messaging on their desktop to say that it's already done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So there's already an activity for Orchestrator which lets you send an email. So I could have just sent an email to someone saying that, or here's a PDF with all the information you need to access your new VM, and lunchtime is from then to then, and whatever you want, just put it in there.
Could you open the create VM task?
Sure.
Create new as a guest. Okay, so it's all PowerShell. Really.
It's all PowerShell. I can't do any VBS. I know batch.
I thought there was a command an actual task.
No.
That would create it.
Unfortunately not. No, it's PowerShell. I'm creating a new MAC address, connect to my notebook, create the new VM, and
do you send anything back to the SM service manager? Do you send anything back?
that's done automatically by the Runbook. So
what type of communication you send back to SM?
the service manager, the service request knows, okay, I executed the Runbook successful, and that's it. I could do more. I could update the service request. I could put more information into it. I could tell the service request, here, I created a new VM, that's the MAC address, that's its name, it's in that data center, has got a gazillion NICs, whatever. I could do that, but I didn't. So at this point, the installation runs, and the service request would now wait for a review. I configured it to wait for a review on that installation, which is basically done by my wife in that case, because she reviews everything I do. She actually reviews all the documents I do for typos and stuff.
But she's in the swimming pool upstairs.
Yeah. So I can't show you the review now. But I think should already be no. Yeah, it's still installing. But trust me, as soon as it's finished, there will be another tweet on that account saying, "Congrats, your new VM has just been created. Have fun using it." And after that, we're good to go. Thanks for watching my first session when every demo worked.